Welcome back to the channel. I am Joe. We've got the GX470 in the garage this week where we're actually going to be doing some work replacing parts. Go figure. So stay tuned. I say that because it's Toyota. You don't usually need to replace things, and when you do, it's usually just wear parts. In this case, it is an upper ball joint. If you've been following me for about 5 years now, seems like, because I've had the GX for about 5 years. I have Freedom off-road upper control arms on this with probably about 60,000 miles on them now, I suppose. It's got to be close, right around there. And I noticed a few weeks ago driving that my steering wheel is just ever so slightly turned. And I knew that that wasn't normal. So did some checking around, and I've come to the conclusion that I believe the upper ball joint on my passenger side is bad. So I've ordered new ball joints. Actually, I ordered two because I should probably change both sides, I suppose, at the same time. But yeah, we're gonna pull that upper control arm out and we're gonna replace it. So let's get to it. So how did I get to thinking that the upper ball joint was bad? So first thing you should do if you think you have some front end issues, jack the front of the car up a little bit, jack it up from the suspension. You want it under load, and find something, a big tire iron, a big bar or something, and get it up underneath the tire. And of course I'm not gonna be able to like demonstrate the actual the play because it was not drastic on video. But if you just start pulling up, you should feel some play somewhere if you have play. And I could feel like this little thunk just ever so slightly. So I kind of assumed at that point, you can kind of tell from feeling tie rod ends, and I checked the shocks, and I had just put that new CV shaft in. I was assuming it was upper ball joint. I was hoping it wasn't lower ball joint. So I pulled the tire off. So what I did was I jacked up the car, like I said, on the suspension, put a jack stand up underneath the brake caliper, and then lower the jack down just a little bit, just so there's weight on both, because I want to lift this control arm up, but I don't want the knuckle to come flying out. So kind of supports that. Loosen up the bolt that goes through the control arm. That takes the tension off of it so that you can actually lift this control arm up. Undo that and then pop it out, and it's pretty loose. Like, it's not like sloppy clunky loose, but I was pretty sure at that point is what it was. When I put it back together, I did the test again where I kind of put some leverage on the tire and tried to reach back here and hold on to the best I could. And I could definitely feel the little clunk going on in there. So I've seen one other video of a guy who did this with, he did it with a handheld ball joint press while it was still in the car. These control arms are really not that difficult to remove as long as your hardware is not all seized up, which if you've replaced it, you should have greased it and should be good to go. So I'm actually gonna pull the whole control arm out, and I'm gonna do it on my hydraulic press that I have. But of course, even if you have the rental press or regular handheld ball joint press, it's still gonna be easier to do out of the car. And I did rent one from O'Reilly's, mainly because I need the spacers and stuff to go around the ball joint, which I'll show you here in a minute. All right, quick update. I'm halfway through. It took me a little while to figure out exactly what I needed to do for spacers and where I needed to press and stuff. You need to remove, cut off, whatever, get rid of the rubber boot that's on the ball joint, because everything that you need to press against to press the ball joint out, you're going to press from the bottom up essentially, is underneath that boot. None of the spacers that came in that ball joint press really were small enough to fit in there, but I had this giant socket, which was the perfect size, that I basically just went over, and it presses on the inner part of the ball joint. I would show you, but it's all just grease. You can't really see anything. I took the grease fitting off of the back so that I could press it in my hydraulic bench press just until the ball joint was flush. Now I'm going to put it back in with the big sleeve spacer on the other side so that the ball joint can continue press out all the way, and then we will worry about getting the new one pushed in. All right, this is the big sleeve spacer that came with that ball joint press, my big socket up here, and it's all lined up right now. Let's hope that it stays lined up. The ball joint was really not that tight in there, so let's just get it moving. Yep, that's all it took. So basically, if you get it started and get it flush before you use that sleeve, it's not going to take very much to get it out. Now I need to go retrieve my new ball joint out of my freezer and work on getting it set up to press in. And pressing it in, I think, should be fairly simple as well. All right, I'm ready to press the new one in. I've already got it just barely started. I've got the two plates that have like crescent holes in them, so the ball joint is going down through the plates. The plates are encapsulating the bottom of the control arm here. Spacer up on top, pressing down on the ball joint, and then this cap. These two pieces are from the ball joint press. And now we're just gonna press. Now we're going somewhere. If you caught that I said I had to get my ball joint out of the freezer, if you didn't know, physics can be our friend. It's not all just rusty stuck bolts. When you're trying to press a part in, if you freeze the part that is doing the going in, it will contract ever so slightly and it will go in easier. That's why you heat up bolts or nuts sometimes to get them off, because heating them up expands them and it loosens them off of whatever bolt they're on. So let's get close to, oop, now we got some resistance. Pull this off. I bet that is pressed. Make sure we've got, oh yeah, we're down in there. Put our snap ring in there and ready to put the control arm back in. All right, back installed. Everything is tightened back up. Doing these upper control arms with that long bolt actually is very simple. It's a little fiddly trying to get the bolt fished back through, but it's really not bad at all. I have the jack underneath the suspension, so the suspension is compressed under the vehicle's body weight, so I tighten that back down, tighten the ball joint, some grease in there, and we should be all good to go. Now, besides the fact that it needed to be replaced, coming up to winter, so I didn't want to be working on it. I got a road trip coming up. Also, I wanted to make sure everything was good on my front end, because yeah, these are going to be going on next week. Well, this week, but more on that later. All right, that wraps it up. Let's, because I'm sure there's going to be questions down below regarding the Freedom Off-Road upper control arms. If you are new to the channel, I have several videos of when I first got this, lifting it the first time, tires, wheels, like changing the lift a couple years ago. Is 60,000 miles of 99% on-road driving a good lifetime for these ball joints? I don't know. It was $45 a side with free shipping. It was pretty easy to replace, and I know that some of the other much more expensive control arms that take much more expensive ball joints, I see those a lot more often needing to be replaced and people whining about those on the message boards and stuff, so I don't know. These have been running on 33s their entire life. At one point, I think the steering rack bushings were a little bit wonky, so I got those replaced. That probably wasn't great on the ball joints. You saw that I replaced the lower bushings in my Bilstein 5100s because those were bad at one point. That probably wasn't very good on the front end. I had brake calipers. I didn't show this because it is just stuff that I fixed a couple months ago. Brake calipers that were starting to stick on. That's not good for the front end. So I don't know, 60,000 miles, 45 bucks. That was pretty easy. I'm happy with that. Does this necessarily need aftermarket upper control arms? I don't really know. I'm not running that much lift anymore. So I probably had enough alignment left in the stock ones, but they're just, those upper control arms, the Freedom Off-Road ones, are so much beefier than the stamped steel ones, and you can replace the bushings, which also, I forgot to show that, I meant to, the rubber bushings on the sides, you can get replacements for those. You can press those in and out. I was kind of worried what those were gonna look like when I pulled them out. They looked brand new. There was no cracking, there was no dry rotting. And I live in Iowa. We have salt and temperatures up, down, and you know, that. So I'm happy with those. Comments, questions, of course, down below. And when I get the other wheels and tires fitted on here, I'll make a quick little video because I want to talk about the BFGs that have been on this. And of course, the new wheels and tires that I'm going to be putting on it, and I'll touch on if that actually did fix my alignment problem, replacing that ball joint. I'm going to do the other one this weekend as well, now that I can probably do it in about a quarter of the time, now that I have the process worked out and I won't be filming that side. But anyway, if you're new to the channel, please give the video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, follow the links down below over to Instagram, Facebook. You know the deal. It's the same with every YouTube channel out there. So until the next video drops, thank you so much for watching. Take care.